All right, welcome to the Becoming Great podcast. And today we're going to talk about marketing, how to market a podcast. And we have found a secret ingredient that will guarantee that you will fail at marketing a podcast. We have tried these ingredients, we have indeed failed, and now we have a new approach to do this. And we will get into that in a very moment. But before, let me introduce my fellow good buddy, Mr. Eric Bergman, the founder of Great.com. Hi, Eric.
Hello, my good friend. It's a pleasure to have you here. And knowing that you're actually in my house right now eating my food makes this all the more pleasurable.
Yes, and when it comes to business, my specialty is really food eating, preferably someone else's food.
You're surprisingly talented at it.
Yes, and if this is the first time you're tuning into this podcast is Becoming Great, where we learn together how to get better at business, how to get better at life, and how to build the organization Great.com, an organization that will make as much money as we can and then give it all away to the best charity projects that we can find. Now, Eric, if you were gonna take a swim, you're gonna go into the water and the water is freezing cold, and you had to choose between either walking slowly, put maybe a little pinky toe in, pinky finger, never mind, either going slowly or just plunge into the cold water. Which one would you go for?
Well, I'm not brave enough to dip my toe in first because that means that I will gonna choose not to. So I'm actually gonna use the wussy version, which looks like the cool version, which is jumping straight into it.
All right, nice. Because the reason I use this metaphor is that one of your key concepts that you live by is just begin. When you created your own YouTube channel before, this was the first video that you created, just begin, and we will link to that video below. So can you explain this concept and why it's important?
Yeah, okay, so let's revisit my experience of the YouTube video. So I started a YouTube channel 2 years ago. I failed at it later on, but we'll maybe get to that. But regardless, what I did was that I just wanted to get started. And the challenge then is to make it as small step as possible. So I recorded the first video with this very computer, with the webcam, not thinking too much about what I said, and just said, okay, let's do this, let's get it published, let's see what happens. And that makes it so much easier to succeed in a sense, or to get started, that it's a very small step to do it, instead of building 10 manuscripts and a fancy studio and everything else you can do around it. So I believe that this has been one of the most important things in my life, taking me to the best and the worst places, because it also means that I fail utterly frequently and end up in situations where I maybe shouldn't have been. But yeah, that's the concept of just beginning.
Right, and when the bar isn't that high, that allows you to take action quicker, and it doesn't stop you from doing anything. It doesn't paralyze you. And we're going to talk about this more later in the episode, but the fact that you end up making a lot of mistakes, that is one of the main reasons how you can learn quickly. I see you as a quick learner. And we will get into that in the beginning. But first, I want to explore, okay, marketing a podcast in social media. Why is this even interesting to you? Why did you want to learn this skill? Why did you want to fail at this idea?
So first and foremost, I see myself as pretty shitty in social media. And I'd like to be really good at this because I see it benefiting a company in lots of ways. And yeah, well, we can start with your perspective of this. Where do you see social media could benefit a company in general? What can you do with social media?
Do you mean as a marketing strategy?
Regardless, marketing or
Okay,
anything
cool.
else.
Yeah, marketing for sure. I can see a huge benefit in recruitment and getting the brand name out there to build relationship, to build collaborations with other companies. What do you see that I'm missing?
I think you're touching on the main parts, but I'd like to go a bit deeper into, for example, the recruitment aspect of this. So when I've been recruiting in the past with Katina and previous companies, we've been either using just common advertising, just putting ads out there, or we've been using headhunting agencies, kind of, okay, let's find that's a person, let's headhunt that person. And in none of these situations, the candidates have had a relationship to us before or know anything about us before. But if, let's say, we've been able to build a brand in social media and we're communicating our messages, we're doing podcasts, we're adding videos, we're doing these kind of things, then hopefully candidates will build a relationship to us before we even know about them. So they will follow our voices, they will hear our message, they will hopefully resonate with what we're saying. And maybe we don't even need to put out an ad to get them to apply for a job. They're actually so inspired of the things we do that they say, hey, I want that guy Emil to come to my house and eat my food. So they reach out to us. And getting this to work the other way, which means that we don't need to spend money on any of those things. But it also means that the people coming to us are very likely to be a good cultural fit because they enjoy our message. They enjoy all of these things. I don't think that anyone listening to us talking about charity would come to start work for us because they want the highest possible paycheck. They would come because they want a big, meaningful purpose.
Right. And just to clarify, the reason I eat your food is because your fiancé is the best chef that I know of. And in regards to what you're saying, yes, so for recruitment, then if there is a social media presence where our culture and our values are clearly on display, then you could have people that like that culture find you, and then all of a sudden you are recruiting people that already wants to work with you instead of people that you need to convince that they would want to work to you. So your influence power is much greater from the get-go.
Yeah, both the influence power and the ability to find the right people. So the fit, basically,
Right.
you can. That's my personal belief that the more people that have seen our message and the better we are at getting the message out there, the better it will be. So I see. Yeah, go. I felt you breathing in.
Do you think this is? Sorry, what did you say?
No, yes, I was gonna keep talking, then I heard your. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give the word over to him.
I'm curious how much you guys. So Eric's previous company is called Katina Media, and I'm curious how much money you actually spent, if you want to talk about that, on finding new people that would want to work for you, because having a social media presence then and use that for recruitment could actually save a lot of money, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, I think it will do a better job. So the main upside is not to save money, because it's expensive to do just podcasting like this. Takes both your and my time, and it costs a lot of money. It's just harder to trace it because you're not paying someone else's commission and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think if social media is done well, it will be a very cost efficient thing, but it's hard to touch upon. The main thing will be quality. But yeah, I like the question of how much does it cost. It's might be something that most people are not aware of how expensive it is. I'll let you guess because I don't think you have any idea. Let's say you want to recruit a developer, a technical developer, and this person costs 60,000 euros a year. How much do you think you have to spend to headhunt someone like that?
80,000 a year.
60,000 a year costs one person. So just to hire one person.
I think then if you want to hire someone for 60,000, you would have to pay 80,000 if you go through a headhunter.
Okay, so you mean that the salary would go up?
Well, so imagine you hire someone for 60,000 a year. You would have to pay fees, all in all, that would be 20,000 to find this person.
It's actually over. Thought you were gonna go with a lower number, but yeah, okay. So give or take, 2 months salary is pretty common, or 3 months salary, and it depends on the role. So let's say someone earning 60,000 a year, that's 5,000 euros a month. So you probably pay around 10,000 euros in a commission to find a person like this.
Cool.
And this is also why a lot of companies have recruit a friend kind of things, where if you get your friends to start working in this company, you'll get a small little commission for it. Well, actually a significant commission. I think we used to pay people in Catena 500 euros or maybe 1,000 euros as a commission if they recruited their friend to the company. And that's usually better than using a headhunting agency because, well, the friend knows the guy, so it's more likely the cultural will be the same and be a good person. And it's cheaper. So it's surprisingly expensive to pay headhunting, especially if you want to recruit. The more senior the role is, the more expensive it is.
Right.
So to hire a CEO could be like 100,000 euros in fees.
Right, yeah. I think my mom said when she was hired through a headhunter that she had to pay a 25% fee or something on her salary. But I guess the most expensive part here would be to hire someone that is a bad fit. And I guess that it's easier to teach people the skills necessary to do the job than it's easier to teach them to be a good fit with personality and culture.
Yeah, I completely agree. Definitely. And that brings us back to social media, that you can actually build a relationship to someone before.
Yeah.
To have a much higher chance that the cultural fit matches. And you can do this at a scale. So if 1,000 people listen to a podcast, then that's more or less having a dialogue with 1,000 people for an hour where they get a chance to understand our culture and they can feel if they fit. We cannot feel the other person, but they can feel us, and that's a big part of it. So yeah, you asked me before what's the upside of social media, and I see recruitment for us as the by far biggest one. For many other companies, it would be sales, the main benefit. Because the more people that follow your message, the more people you can sell to. That if you have a bikini brand and you have 1 million followers on Instagram that wants to buy your bikini, then the sales is going to be a more important thing than actually recruitment. For us, we're never going to sell anything B2C. I don't think we will, at least. Maybe we will. At least for now, we're not going to sell anything. So we will not be able to benefit from that. But instead, we can use it for recruitment and attract best people and collaborations with various marketing companies.
Cool. So we have the upsides for recruitment. It's easier to find people that are already into our culture fit. It might be less expensive. And we also have the option if we want to sell something later on, because if we have a social media presence. What else do you see? Why else do you want to learn marketing a podcast, and why would it be important for other people listening that might not be doing it right now?
So I think that building a personal brand or a company brand, but let's go with personal brand, will benefit the life in so many different ways, regardless if you're doing it at a large scale, which we are trying to do, or if you're building it on a small scale around yourself. Because, well, let's say you want to apply for a job. Today, I believe most companies for most roles will check out what you're doing. And the more people you have that are inspired of your message one way or another, the more likely it is that you can add value to a company, I'm guessing. I mean, if you have 1,000 people following you on Instagram, that says quite a bit of your social skills and your opportunity to influence other people and your understanding of the modern world.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that means that you're a good fit for a company, but it is something that adds value to your person for any company. So it makes you more attractive. Or in my case now, for example, I'd love to be on big podcasts. One of my goals is to become a guest on the Tim Ferriss show. And if I have a big following on my own, which I don't, but if I would, it's far more likely that he would see that as, okay, this is someone who actually brings value to the podcast because a lot of people already likes his message. If 100,000 people likes his message, then it's more likely that 1 million will. But if only 100 people like my message, it's very unlikely that I will have something to say that benefits 1 million.
Right. So by having people that follow you, you're building your personal brand, and you show that you have influence ability.
Yeah, and I think that will benefit regardless if you're looking for a job as a digital marketer or even an accountant. I think that's something that benefits you.
You're raising your value in the global social hierarchy.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if we take this to a schoolyard example, if I can pull this one together, that there is one guy or a girl on the schoolyard and a lot of people are kind of shaping up around them, listening to what they hear to say. It's very likely that that person has the biggest influence on the school and would be the best one for if you wanted to make a change in the school. It's not about getting the teachers to want one thing, it's about that person to want one thing. Because that person would be able to get the other kids around him to feel the same way. And if you have a big following in social media, it's basically like being the influential kid in school and be able to get everyone else to want to do that. Let's say the school is about to determine where they're going to go on a class trip. It's very likely that whatever that person wants to go, all the other people are going to want to do as well. And it's a similar thing if you want to buy a product then. If the most influential people have blue bikinis, then suddenly everyone else is going to want it as well. So you can see these people. My friend Sebastian spoke about this the other day and saw this as leverage. Like, how could you scale something? And he said that back in the days, let's go back 100 plus years in time, the best way to scale something was through manpower. Like, one rich person had hundreds or thousands of people working for them. That was the only way to kind of get more things done. And it was a hassle because you need a lot of people. You probably needed to abuse a lot of people because they worked, I'm guessing, cheaply at a lot of places, at least hundreds of years ago. And that became kind of the only way to scale. And then industrialism came and you could scale with machines. Once again, it's it's a hassle, you need big things, and you still needed a lot of people to be able to get leverage and scale things. And later on, development came and computers came. So then coding became the best way of scaling. Suddenly, 11 people could build Instagram and sell it for $1 billion. And you could actually scale a lot like this. And his theory was that the leverage or the scalability from today comes from personal branding and people knowing what you want to do. Now, Tim Ferriss or other big social media people can scale just by being themselves. They don't need development. They don't need a lot of money. They don't need a lot of people. By just posting a blog post and being them, they could get an entire community to change their perspective. And this didn't exist 200 years ago. No president could talk like this 200 years ago. But today it's possible. People genuinely like what it is that you're doing. They're generally following you for you. They're not following you because you're the president. They're following you because they want to.
That's a very interesting little history lesson. And it really makes me excited to... I'm thinking, why don't I build a personal brand? And maybe it's worth the pain of... and the fear of putting myself out there.
Yeah, and I've completely failed with this so far as well. So that's what we're digging into.
All right. Okay. We have to pause because my battery is running out. I'm sorry. All right, so let's move on. We have concluded that there are a lot of benefits for, I guess, most businesses to get into social media and to build a personal brand as well. So you want to learn this. How did you do it? What is your approach?
Okay, so let's back up a little. Let's go back to 2010, almost a decade. Then I was actually really good at social media. This was the time when Twitter kind of was big. blogs were everywhere. And I found a good use of being on Twitter and blogs for myself and got a lot of business value out of it. Then internet happened. Instagram came up, Snapchat came out. All of these different things came up and I got old, man. I started to feel like a really old dude, and especially when I met teenagers when I was out speaking and they had 5 Instagram accounts. I'm like, why? I don't understand.
You have images now? Video? What is this?
I've never felt so old as I did. Yeah, I did a speech. And then I asked people to post an image on me on Instagram and give me feedback. And no one did. And I was like, you can't ask someone to do that. You can ask them for an Instagram story. I'm like, what's the story? They don't want to mess up their feed, man. I was like, what's their feed? So, yeah, basically I started to suck at social media from being someone at least I consider good. So my curve of social media value went from very high to next to nothing. And then I felt like, I need to figure this out again. So now we're fast forwarding to like 3-4 months ago, the beginning of the year. And I had been thinking about all these benefits of social media, but I had no idea how to utilize them or get anywhere with it.
Beginning of 2019, that is.
Yes, beginning of 2019. Nice. So I saw myself having 2 options. I could either walk to the water, dip my little pinky toe in, if the pinky toe is a word, and say, it's cold, and put myself down and write a strategy on how to prepare for this and what to learn, starting with just Instagram stories or whatever. Or I could take some speed, run out, jump, and that's what I did, just to land and realize that it's freaking frozen.
It hurts.
Yeah, I'm saying this because Emil is a crazy guy who swims in ice cold water all winter. He's weird.
Well, I started this year. I had my first swim when the ice broke open in Sweden in February. And it's surprisingly refreshing. And also I make people happy. Because when it's like almost snowing outside and I'm walking back in my underwear, people are like, they're smiling. So it's a weird thing to do that makes almost everyone happy that I walk by.
That's a really valid point. I have never thought about that before. But yeah, that's a huge sidetrack because you're being crazy and I'm crazy in my own way. Okay, so there is no ice on the water. I'm just getting straight into it. And with social media, in this case, for me that meant I started a Facebook group where I invited pretty much everyone I know who inspires me to discuss all kinds of problems and challenges about running businesses. That went from 0 people to 400 people within a week. And between a week and now, 4 months later, it's still 400 people. Meaning that I had a lot of fun the first week and then I couldn't really get it going. So it was a success in one way and a big failure in another way. And let's back up a little bit.
What was the reason for creating a Facebook group?
Okay, so first and foremost, I wanted to find ways of doing social media that I enjoyed and had fun with it, because I believe that if I have fun with it, I will continue doing it. B, I wanted to add value to other people, that I wanted to come up with a way where this is beneficial for whoever sees what I'm doing. And C, I wanted it to add value to myself. Where can this benefit great or with the purpose that I have? So I started thinking about what are the options for this. And I believe that a Facebook group is one of the most influential things you can control because, okay, so we'll do the ABC thing again. Facebook has started to really love groups. The groups are growing like crazy and they get more and more favored by the algorithm and showing up. B, if you have a Facebook group, it's kind of like being the host of a party. Like let's say you're a teenager and you're 17 years old and your parents are out of the house. Then suddenly you are the most popular kid in school, regardless if you're a geek or not, because everyone wants a place to be. So you can kind of climb the the coolness ladder with minimal effort, but by utilizing scale. And scale in this case, is your parents' house. And it could also be having a Facebook group. Like everyone would know who you are, and you would actually control the party and have a lot of influence without actually needing to do that much. So that's how I see it, having a Facebook group, that you can control what's going on in there, but you don't need to bring that much of the value, because the main part of the value is all the people being in the group, talking to each other, doing all of these things. So you can benefit from that. It's basically like creating a small Facebook in itself, but you kind of own and control it. So the value of Facebook is not the technical platform. It's not Mark Zuckerberg himself. It's not all the funny cat videos. It's the fact that 1 billion people goes there regularly to talk to each other. That's the product, and that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants to talk to someone else. So what Facebook actually owns is not the value, but they attract the value, and then they can make money from ads. So if you have a Facebook group, you're kind of owning a piece of Facebook where you can add your own ads or your own content or whatever it is, but all the people are the actual value. So yeah, let's stop there. So that's why I wanted to create a Facebook group. I wanted to understand, how does a group work? How do I get people to interact with each other? How do I enjoy it? And how do I add value with it? And I learned a lot, but I couldn't find an angle that I enjoyed it. And that meant that my engagement was down after 1 or 2 weeks, and I barely interacted with it since. So that was the first thing I did. And it was interesting. Second thing I did was that I started to post daily videos on Instagram. No, not on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And just basically putting the camera up and saying, this is my day, this is what I've been doing. And I posted those videos on Facebook as well. And that was scary. Because I put out really crappy things.
Can I just interject with one thing here before I let continue about your Instagram experience? Now, you might be listening to this episode and think, they talked in the beginning about some kind of secret ingredients that would guarantee failure. And if you pay very close attention, you might find hints of that secret ingredients in what have already happened. And you're going to see more and more hints of it. Right?
Nice.
Yes,
Good pickup, my friend.
And when you pick it up, I would like for you to give yourself a gold star for being a great student. All right. And we will let you know what it is in the end. All right, so
I love how you say gold star and then held your chest, because the first thing I saw then was this sheriff in a cowboy movie having a gold star in his chest. So basically, if you find it, you're a sheriff.
Yes, and the more gold stars you have, the more you will be on your way to becoming a great dictator. All right, so you wanted to build a Facebook group to be able to be the host of the party. And now you're trying Instagram stories. What was that like for you?
Yeah, let's back off a little bit. What did you take with you from the Facebook group thing? Did what I said make sense?
Yeah, make a lot of sense. That being the host of the party, then you can control, well, not control, but you can choose kind of what kind of content gets shown there. And then you have a lot of influence ability. I mean, look at isn't that what like Hugh Hefner, Dan Bilzerian is doing? Like big party fixers have the most influence power, right? And this is a mini version of that.
Yeah. I actually stole this analogy from Gary Vee. So if you're listening and want more of those things, go check out Gary Vee. We'll link to him somewhere.
Yes.
He said that party analogy, and I just felt it made sense to add it to the Facebook group aspect. Yeah, let's move on. But good. So the next thing I tried was adding videos to LinkedIn. And this also came from Gary Vee. He said it's better to put out any content than no content. So don't think too much about quality, just do it. Because according to him, and I think this makes a lot of sense, the biggest reason why people don't put things on social media is that they think it has to be perfect. So they want to overdo it, and that means they're not doing it at all. And everything is better than nothing. That's his logic. And yeah, I buy into it. So I started doing videos on LinkedIn on a daily basis. And I had fun with it for another week. And some of them got...
So like short YouTube style videos or...
Yeah, so my idea was let's turn on the webcam and talk for maximum 3 minutes about what's going on in my business life at the moment or in my thoughts at the moment.
Mm.
And yeah, the idea was I want to make this as simple as possible for me and hopefully add some value, have some fun, and get some value to be able to tick those 3 boxes.
How scared did it feel putting out stuff there that obviously you can't have that high quality when you're just improvising? Because I would not be comfortable with that.
I was definitely not comfortable. So going back to the water analogy, this was the feeling of jumping in, and while you're still in the air, it's pretty fine. And then you hear the splash, you're still fine, and then 1 second later you feel it's freezing cold. It's like, fuck, I actually clicked publish on this. And yeah, it's scary to put out something that you're proud of. It's horrifying to put out something that you're actually ashamed of to start with. But yeah, doing things that are uncomfortable, I mean, you said this, that's like training a muscle.
Yeah.
And it was really uncomfortable the first time, a little bit less the next time, and after a week it wasn't uncomfortable anymore. And
that's the whole reason that I do ice baths, is to train that muscle. This is a social media ice bath.
Yeah. After a while I actually changed my profile picture on Facebook and LinkedIn. No, not on LinkedIn, never mind. Of me in a tiny little prison cell asking for forgiveness for hijacking their feeds with crappy content. That was a lot of fun. Regardless. So what I took from this was that a great way to interact with people is to ask questions. So I asked questions in the feed all the time and in the videos because it inspired people to answer. And this is something that we listen to. There is a YouTube channel called Charisma on Command, great YouTube channel, where they spoke about how to interact with people, and that people gets very inspired of being able to add value or being able to help. So by asking questions, you give people the opportunity of helping, which is a great way of interacting and starting a conversation. So this worked out well in the sense that people actually interacted, but it didn't work out well because I didn't enjoy it. So I stopped after, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks again. And in a sense failed. I failed with finding something I enjoyed. So I went on from that. I did all kinds of things like this. And it's going to be 2 long stories to go into all of them in detail. But these are some of the things that I've tried. And I tried live streaming on Instagram. I've tried live streaming on Facebook. I've tried all kinds of things for 2-3 months. And well, one of the main things that happened was that Facebook and LinkedIn's algorithms started hating me because I pushed out too much crappy content that people didn't interact with. So that's a good thing to learn. That my guess was that if you publish more things, everything will kind of be more visible in the algorithm. Because previously, back in the old days, Facebook added value to quality over quantity. The more you pushed out, the more all of your kind of content benefited from it. Today, not so much. So if you push out things that few people interact with, the next thing you push out will be seen to less people, and you will have even a worse chance of getting interactions, and then it keeps going.
All right, so does the algorithms favor how many of the viewers are interacting with it, or is it just how many views it gets?
Yes, it greatly favors interactions.
Okay, so you want comments, is that the only thing you want, or shares?
Comments, shares, likes, all the interactions, basically.
Right.
So the more of those things you get, the more good percentage-wise. So if 100 people looks at the video and 50 like it, it will show up much more in all those 100 people's feeds. But if 100 people watch it and just 1 like it, it will not show up in pretty much anyone's feed. And it's not just 50 times more chance that it will jump up in the feeds because of 50 people liking it compared to 1. It's actually more strong in each one of their feeds as well. So it's probably 500 times more likely. Yeah. And what happened with me, that was that in the beginning I had hundreds of likes on the things I did, and by the end I had 10. And that meant to me like, okay, either I'm producing really horrible content, which partly was true, and secondly, it's like, okay, the percentage of interactions is too small, leading to me not getting visible anywhere, leading to this being completely
Interesting.
meaningless.
It would be really cool if you could see in Facebook how many people watched your post.
You can see some things if you have a company account.
Yeah.
So you can see number of views and stuff like that, but not that much. And this is the same for Instagram, that you get more data if you have a company account. And you can have a company account for free. So a person can have it. You don't need to pay for it. It's just a setting thing. Yeah. Regardless, I learned all of these things, and I ended up losing the passion for it. I didn't really enjoy it. So I failed finding a fun angle.
So, right. So, would you say this whole thing was a failure then, or?
Partly it was a failure. I failed with my mission. I failed. So when it comes to finding something that I enjoy doing and would do over time, which was the main purpose of this, I failed. I wanted to find something that I can do for years on and really enjoy the process. I didn't come close to that. But I managed to add value to a lot of people, I think. A lot of people reached out and were happy with some of the things that I posted. And I managed to add value to Great. We found some really good candidates for our great leader role that came through these social media ventures. We got publicity in a bunch of newspapers for some of our podcast episodes and things we're talking about. So I ticked 2 out of the 3 boxes. I managed to add value and I managed to get value. I didn't manage to enjoy it that much. I enjoyed everything for like a week and then I moved on. But I wanted to find something that I enjoyed over time. So I failed with that part. And that's the reason why I haven't been doing it for now, over a month or 2.
All right. So you started off 2019 really intense, going for 2-3 months, really diving into the cold water, just doing anything you can to just stay in that water. And it was too cold, you had to get up. And
I love this analogy. It makes so much sense.
Yes. But now moving forward, you and we plan to go back into the cold water. We've been at the fireplace, we've been heating up, we've been talking over the strategy, and we're going back, right?
Yeah.
So what's going to be different this time?
Yeah, so let's apply this to what we've been doing with podcasting. And with podcasting and marketing of the podcast, we had 2 quite different approaches. So both of them, we just jumped into the water. We didn't plan too much and we didn't get started that much. But the difference here was that we set very different goals. So one goal that we set to run the podcast, we set 2 goals for the podcast on the early stage, I would say. One was that we wanted to enjoy the process. It was important for us to have fun. And 2 was that we wanted to learn things. We didn't set any goals about producing 1 podcast every day. We didn't set a goal of making it super high quality or very niche towards one audience where we thought that we could make the most influential power. We didn't target anyone specific. We just said we want to enjoy this and we want to learn. So we set fairly small goals and attainable goals. And we're still going strong. We're now episode 18 or something like that. And we've been doing this every week, not missing a single episode. And those are still the only targets that we've set and the only targets that we've achieved. However, when it comes to marketing the podcast, we've failed completely. Horribly bad. And the goals we set to market the podcast was to put out 1 video every day from the podcast, write descriptions to everything all the time. We wanted to actually do 3 different podcasts with the same material. And we built this huge hill of things that we wanted to do. And I'd say after 3 steps up this hill, we kind of stopped. And since then, we've barely done any marketing whatsoever for the podcast. And we haven't had a single strategy for it. And personally, I believe it was because we set a way too overwhelming goal. And we didn't even think about how is this fun.
The hill of stuff became too steep.
Yes, it becomes too steep. Yeah, so if it was a big hill, but it was a slower hill, maybe we would have been able to walk it up. But the steeper it is, the less fun it is.
Yeah.
So if the hill would have been downhill, it would be a lot of fun, and we would probably have done everything anyway.
Mm.
Love analogies. Yes. So what happened here was that we utterly failed. We did nothing. We posted 2 videos out of the 90 we planned to post or something over the first 3 months. And yeah, the reason was that we simply didn't do this in a way that we would enjoy it. There were too many things not happening here that made sense. And Frederick, our producer, who were the one who got the bigger load of this unpleasant tasks, when we spoke about it, he did the analogy of, parts of this is the really fun things when he's doing the painting a Picasso. He gets to be creative. And then the things that might be more necessary to do was like painting a wall green. The only thing he got was the green bucket and just painting a wall. And it took the joy out of it. And obviously it's a lot harder than to get value from it, because I don't think many people enjoy painting walls green all the time. So there needs to be somewhere in between. How can it be fun as well as valuable then? It's hard to become Picasso. So we looked at this and we said, okay, this is the reason why we have failed to market the podcast. We did a too big hill of too many things, and it was too steep, meaning not at all fun. So yeah, what did we do here, Emil?
Right. So we sat down and we said, all right, let's remove all the difficult things. We had a meeting, me, Eric, and Spirit the other day. And we said, all right, let's do the podcast. And then we started to talk about a marketing strategy from Gary Vee, where you take the podcast and you create a lot of small content and distribute it anyway. And we realized that it doesn't look that cool the way we do it now with our backgrounds. If you're watching this in video, so we thought, let's get a green screen. And while we're at it, if we take the main lessons from the podcast and create a separate video with its own script, and then we can post that on YouTube, that would be really cool. You know what? We could also hire a freelancer to create graphics for the whole episodes.
Stop! And that's what happened in this meeting. So Spirit, who was also in the meeting, screamed stop at me and Emil and said, "What are you guys doing right now?" And we're like, "We don't know. Are you maybe building a big hill of things that are overpowering you?" "Yes." "Can we take this to a smaller step?" "Yes."
Oh.
So we started to see what happens when me and Emil goes bonkers, and not beginning, but either over planning.
Mm.
So yeah, we.
And I think what Spirit said nicely to appeal to our megalomania is that you can make a big hill, but don't make it that steep, right? So you start with one thing.
Yeah, so we started planning again, and 5 minutes later, Spirit once again screamed stop to us because we had already built too many things and added into that. And we then decided to make this as simple as we possibly can to start with. Take this small step that means that we can just begin this week and not hiring a freelancer, not ordering a green screen, not getting all of those things working, but rather just put anything out there, because once again, anything is better than nothing. Mm. And when building too much barriers, it's very easy that it's nothing. It's better to walk up a small hill than no hill at all.
I agree.
Yeah.
Good Spirit.
Good Spirit. We love our Spirit.
Who's a good boy?
So, so what did we end up deciding on doing? What's step 1?
So, create the podcast, extract the most beneficial segments out of the podcast, and then distribute that over different channels. But make it easier. Only use pictures. And instead spend...
You did not listen in this meeting,
Sir?
did you? You did not listen in this meeting, did you?
Okay, you go. I'm confused.
So what we decided to do was to just find the most important sections of a podcast, just take exactly the recording we already had. So not adding any graphics, not adding anything. Shop out one 15-second video that could be an Instagram story, and one part of the video which is like 2 minutes that could be one video for Instagram or LinkedIn. No, LinkedIn or Facebook. And publish this alone, just as they are, with a little text description. That's the only thing we will start doing now, and we will not add anything more to that before we've done this over a couple of weeks and seen that this is working, we're enjoying it, and it's happening. So we built a small little hill with intention of walking over that hill as step 1. And then we'll build a bigger hill for step 2 when we got the motivation and momentum up and running.
Well said, well said. All right, so we're coming towards the end of this, and we will soon reveal the secret ingredients. So do you have anything to add before we do?
I think we've touched on all the things. So, can I have a mystery drum roll?
Of course.
So you can then release the big secret ingredient. So. Ding!
The secret ingredients that will guarantee failure when marketing a podcast is lacking having fun. It is,
yes.
If not enjoying the process, will guarantee you that you will fail to keep moving.
Yeah. So if you inject boredom or overwhelming, then it will kill the project. And I've killed so many projects like this, and probably 10 already this year. So that's something that needs to be in every planning meeting. I believe it needs to be the aspect of how do we enjoy this process, because we will come up with too many excuses not to do anything. And this brings a story to mind. When in Katina and I was working the most, and I was a lot more burned out than I realized, and my mother was concerned about me. And she told me, like, Eric, I'm very worried that you will burn yourself out here just running straight into a wall. And I told her, like, Mom, it's no problem. I'm having so much fun. I'm not gonna get burned out. And she said, that's exactly why I'm worried. Because if you didn't have fun, you would find excuses to relax. But if you're enjoying it, you will keep running until you fall. And that's what happened. I ran until I fell. And I probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for fun. So fun can guarantee you actually succeeding, or at least make it a lot more likely. But it can also be the reason why something fails harder, because you are able to keep running rather than staying. Yeah. I'm happy to end the episode on that note. Do you want to add something, or should we just...
Yes, I want to add something. And that is that if you enjoyed this podcast, or if you have any suggestions for things you want to see more of, or things you want to see less of, or if you want to see us more in social media or less in social media, or if you picked up anything that we missed, or if you just want to brag that you got the gold star, please send us an email to podcast@great.com.
Thank you for today.
Thank you for today, Eric. Enjoy your day with me. Bye.
Bye.